Welcome back to another edition of the Talking National League podcast, episode 41. It is on this Monday evening. It's not a usual stream. We're not previewing all the games. There's also a slightly different layout, a good update from StreamYard too. We're going to be reviewing all of Saturday's fixtures and talking and discussing all the latest news surrounding the National League. Please remember to get your thoughts in the chat. We are doing something slightly different as well this week. We're taking your calls. So if anyone wants to come in and talk a bit about your club, please feel free to, and we'll happily speak to you. You can be a Wrexham fan, you can be a Maidenhead fan. We honestly don't care, and we'll just talk a bit about the National League too. There's a link that's just coming in now into the live chat, and then you can obviously tune in if you would like to. And if it does go well, we can also do this once again too. Paul, firstly, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very happy after Saturday's result. I do feel a bit bad to the Oldham fans. I know we've got one that's already lined up that we're going to be speaking to shortly. Did you miss it this Saturday then, no football, or did you manage to get to a game?
Oh, no, I didn't get to a game. You see, Wheelstone was called off. Fell foul of the weather down here in the south. I mean, we just about got the game on against Oldham in the week, and the pitch just wasn't going to hold up. So I took advantage of a free week and did a bit. It was my children's birthdays this week. I had two out of three children had birthdays this weekend, so they took the priority. Yeah,
that must have been expensive.
It certainly was. It'd have been cheaper to go to football. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it would have been. We've already got someone that's come in the chat. We've got Keza, who was an Oldham supporter. So like I mentioned, we'll be reviewing all the games, discussing some of the latest topics. Of course, Aldershot have sacked their manager. I'm hoping we've got an Aldershot fan that's going to be joining us soon. If there's any other Aldershot fans that want to come in the live stream, please feel free to. And if you don't want to do any of it, just get in the live chat and we'll answer some of your topics. So I think that's enough of us waffling. We'll talk a bit about the FA Trophy. We're going to talk about both games, Gateshead v Barnet, Halifax v Altrincham. Of course, joking aside, a lot did go on Saturday's game. Quite a lot of unfair. I think gamesmanship, in my opinion, and I think the Altrincham fans will agree with me on this. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining because we have got through, but there was a lot that probably shouldn't have gone on with that game, and I don't think you can blame Halifax fans as a whole. I don't think you can blame the club. I think you've got to blame, in my opinion, the stewarding. We've got Erin, who is an Altrincham fan, also works on the groundsman side of things too. So I'm sure, Erin, you're very frustrated. You are on the stream now, Erin, if you would just like to give your thoughts. So I'll just quickly ask you then, that match, how would you summarise that match?
I don't know how to describe it. I think I was just kind of gobsmacked by the end of it. I tried to contemplate what had happened. But I think with that, I'm really, really, really hurting after that. I've never felt so deflated after a game before.
Yeah.
It just seemed like chaos. We obviously took the lead before half-time and going into it, and then 90 plus 3 minutes, and then your lad just took a shot out of what came out of nowhere, and it just nestled bottom left, and I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I can understand. I'm sure you're very frustrated. Especially considering that, I'll admit this, Altrincham with their miles better side. You know, I've looked at the highlights and it makes it look even worse from our perspective, how we played. You know, the first half, you battered us. I would actually go as far to say that's the best Altrincham side that I've ever seen. Some of the players in that team, I think you were a lot better than the side that we saw before Christmas too. I do want to ask you though, obviously you had that match. I think, what would your opinions be on people tugging the goals, the pyro? Of course, I know you're going to disagree with it. As an Oldham fan, you're going to be very frustrated. It's against the rules, isn't it, at the end of the day? I want to ask you, who do you blame for that?
I don't know. I don't think it's exactly down to your fans as a whole, as you said earlier. It's not all down to you. I think with the tugging of the goals, there's not much really that can be said. Probably we should have done better to stop that from happening. Or we were talking about this actually. I was at the ground earlier on this morning and we were walking on the pitch, obviously making sure everything was all right. I actually found the casing of which pyro had gone off. And there's like a big blue mark next to the penalty spot from where it hit. But I mean, I don't think the Halifax fans in total can be blamed for that. I think that was just down to our own sort of security reasons. We didn't really have many down your side. And obviously, I think the tugging of the goals, I don't really know what to say.
Yeah, this is just how I see it, and of course, I'm going to be a bit biased as a Halifax supporter. I am, because I'm over the moon we've got to Wembley. How I see it is, when you're in that opportunity, you've managed to equalise when realistically, we didn't deserve it. Altrincham were out of sight throughout that game. They were the better team. There were so many misses. I don't know if you've seen the highlights, if you've got yourself to actually look at those.
I can't bear myself to look at it.
But
I'm not ready yet.
Some of the chances that you had, it's criminal that you didn't score. To be brutally honest, you were the miles better team. In the second half, especially some of the chances that you had, you should have put us, to bed. To be honest,
we should have done.
You battered us. But what I think is, how I see it is, it's gone to penalties. The fans, from Halifax's perspective, are over the moon that we've somehow got to penalties. We didn't deserve to. If you're taking a penalty shootout, and this is something as well, I don't know how they ever allowed it to be taken in front of the Halifax end as a first. To be honest, if you think about it, being in front of the Halifax end after the fans are just pitch invaded, run a pyro onto the field. Fans were climbing the goals basically, full time as well. How they allowed that, I do not know. I don't know if it's that you've had to play by the rules because you've had to flip a coin, etc.
Yeah, it was a coin flip.
Yeah, but then they've had it in front of the Halifax end. Halifax fans are gonna tug on to the goal if you've got that opportunity to put Altrincham players off. Obviously, it's against the rules; it's gamesmanship. But I don't think Halifax fans will really care.
I don't think majority of it. I don't think it made a difference. I think it just put them off. But obviously, your keeper come up with two good saves. Two penalties struck down both that same side. He knew what was going to happen, and obviously I'm delighted that Joe Hugel scored his penalty. But I thought he'd saved it at first from where I was stood. I couldn't see it properly. I thought he'd saved it. I mean, he got a hand to it, didn't he? But I don't think the tugging on the goals made much difference.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that, Paul. Just from your perspective, and now you obviously weren't there. I'm guessing you've probably not seen the highlights of the game. You've not seen what's actually gone on. As a neutral, what would your take be on this whole scenario from what you just heard?
I think Erin's right. Clearly there's an element of fans this week, Halifax, who won't go every week, who are hanging on and they've gone along because they're in an FA Trophy semi-final. So I don't think you can sort of berate a whole fan base for the fact that some people are behaving like they are. And people get, and listen, I'm not condoning what they did, like you said, Luke, and I think you're quite right. It's part of football, it's part of the experience, but it can be seen to be unnecessary. And I think Erin's being very nice here to say that, the tugging on net probably didn't make any difference. And listen, if it goes for you like it did for you, Luke, you're going to turn around and go, it's all part of the fun. It maybe shouldn't happen, but it helped us. And if you're an away fan or on the losing side, you're going to turn around and maybe try and find excuses or think, actually, that shouldn't happen. I think Erin's right as well. If you're paying for a stewarding to be in place, should they been policed and stewarded better so they're not able to get to that point? But then when you've got an overwhelming number of people in one end where you're not used to it, and that, how many times do we see in football that last minute winners create that type of atmosphere? How many times it's quite a unique situation that they go straight to penalties? And so it's a really difficult one to to judge and say, is it right or wrong? Personally, it's probably a little bit over the top. People can have fun. People can celebrate. They don't need to be hanging off goal mouths. They don't need to be on nets. They don't need to be tugging on nets. And sometimes that mob mentality causes that behaviour because they can get away with it because you're not going to individually dig them out, if that makes sense. So, listen, it adds to the drama. For someone like Erin, it's really hard yards and it's a tough loss to sort of take. For someone like you, Luke, you're on cloud nine and you take it. So it really depends where you sit. As a neutral, you like to see the drama. I say, my children's birthdays at the weekend, so I wasn't wholly concentrating on watching the football match. I was glued to Flash Score, I was glued to Twitter to see what happened, and to have seen that last minute turnaround, to see the penalty win, similar to the Gateshead Barnet game, as a neutral watching, as a National League fan, seeing those mid-table sides doing so well, it was great to see. Obviously I don't know the details around what happened in the stadium, but as a neutral, it's brilliant fun. And I feel for both of you. I feel for Erin being on that end of it, and I feel for the fact that you're so elated that you're going to be going to Wembley. So it's fair play.
Yeah, it was. You could feel around the ground. Que Sera was literally echoing around the ground. All three stands, and Halifax fans were just stood there thinking, "We've bottled it again. We've done it again. How have we done this?" I wouldn't say bottled it. I think that's quite a strong term considering Oldham, I think, were just a better team. I think they just have better footballers this season. But for us to somehow get back in that game was just amazing. Those sort of fans, the ones that were grabbing the nets, I know a few of them, and I know a lot of them were doing it just to distract fans. I know it's not technically right. Erin, you'll have more information on the damage that's done with you being a groundsman.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got any info on that. I'll ask you that shortly. But you've got fans there, like you've mentioned, Paul, that section that don't go to many away games. They're the ones that were singing Millington out against Wealdstone. They're the fans that who were singing that. But Erin, I just want to ask you finally, I'll ask you two more questions. I'll ask you your thoughts on Altrincham now and how they can bounce back and how your players have took that. But also, I just want to ask you, has there been a lot of significant damage when you've gone down? Are the goals in good condition still, or has there really has been a lot of damage?
There's not too much damage as such. The only thing that was quite damaged was do you know the poles that hold the goals up?
Yeah,
that had been pulled out of the ground, so we had to. That needs to be fixed. But there's not too much significant damage, and there's just a couple of maybe smoke marks on the pitch, obviously from where the pyros went off. But then obviously about the players, a lot of them didn't take it very well. Obviously, you saw Tyrese Sinclair after he missed his penalty, he had his head in his hands. But one thing I also noticed is, obviously, she said there'll be a lot of fans that are jumping on the bandwagon, as you say, just coming because it's a semi-final. I think one thing I did notice is that the Halifax fans obviously did it to distract him, but I think obviously with the pitch invasion, there was an incident of where Tyrese ended up getting hit by one of your fans.
Yeah.
Or
now
somebody
on
the pitch. I'm not blaming your fan base at all. I'm just saying there's just that one person, obviously, that'll take it too far. But a lot of them seem to take it very well. I spoke to one of my friends after the game who was in the bar. The goalkeeper, Ollie, seems to have taken it quite well. A lot of the players have seemed to have taken it quite well, but obviously you'll get the odd few that take it really hard. Obviously the ones that sort of had penalties saved and they took it really quite hard. Obviously, there were the fans, I think, took it hard as well. There were a lot of tears at the end of the game.
Yeah, I could tell. It's damaging. I know Halifax have been in that situation a lot of times.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the same extent of how that match happened, but we've had it a lot of times. Erin, it's been great to speak to you. Think Oldham will bounce back from this? Because I did read a statistic here that every time they seem to have, I think they lost in the playoffs once. The following season they got promoted. Playoffs again, they got promoted. Do you think you'll bounce back from this? Because Altrincham put a tweet out saying that they're going places. Altrincham, the steps that you've moved forward. We just have a look at your attendances. You were getting barely 1,000 a couple of years ago. Now you're getting 2,500, 3,000 some weeks. In this regular league season. Do you think that Oldham can bounce back from this and one day they can get to the Football League?
Yeah, I think definitely. So obviously they got the chance this week to bounce back. We've got the Cheshire Senior Cup semi-final tomorrow against Old Foes Runcorn Linnets. We've got Oldham away on Friday. I'm going to that one. I got my tickets for that today. But I think in the long run that we can bounce back from it. Obviously, you read the statistic that day that we played you was a certain number of years that we were relegated from the National League North. I think it was 6 years to the day that we'd been relegated from the National League North. And obviously, as you said, we bounced back. We won the title. We lost in the playoffs the next year. We got promoted the next, lost the playoffs again, and then got promoted. But I think we're going to bounce back next year. I think, obviously, that's one of the best Altrincham sides I've watched since going to watch them. And I think that trophy run was our best since reaching the semi-finals, I think, in 1980. Yeah. My granddad's saying that's the best trophy run he's seen for a long, long time. But I think it won't take long for them to bounce back. I reckon we can come back stronger, and maybe Wembley's on the cards next year.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Erin, thank you for joining me, and thank you for being so gracious as well. I know it must be very difficult for you at this moment in time, but yeah.
Thanks, Luke.
There we go. That was Erin from Golf Road Girls. If you do want to see her on social media, you can find her on Twitter and Instagram. We've got a few more people that have been calling up before we review a few of the games. We're hoping to have a Maidstone fan as well joining us very, very soon. Paul, I'm hoping his mic is going to work. He's a York City supporter. Of course, York are in action tonight against Barnet at home. Paul, firstly, how are you doing? You well?
Yeah, can we just do a test? Can you hear me okay over the tannoy?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Wow, that's a miracle. If the fans are as loud as the tannoy tonight, then that is all we want. I'm doing pretty well, we're quite kind of excited for tonight because Barnet, obviously after the weekend, and the fact they played 2 days ago, so they're resting a lot of the top players because they've played like 2 games in quick succession.
Yeah. It seems. I know it's a big game, isn't it, tonight for York, because there's that talk about them falling into this zone. Paul, have you got any opinions on that?
Sorry, repeat the question, please.
I was speaking to Paul Franklin. Paul, could you unmute your mic, please? I think it's on mute.
Sorry. Listen, it's Barnet have got a real test on their hands, haven't they? Away from home, they've been away all weekend. I think they stayed up in York after the Gateshead semi-final. He's gone for a very defensive team tonight, as Dean Brennan. Probably going to go with damage limitation. I mean, they're looking to consolidate in the playoffs. I can't see York getting dragged into the relegation zones. I think, if Gateshead win tomorrow night, I think the bottom 4 are almost marooned, and I think York have just they're too far ahead to be sucked into that right now. But clearly, this time of the year where you got 5, like I said before, you got 5-6 games left for most teams. There's a lot of teams playing for something. There's not many teams in that middle section who are they're dead rubbers, if you like. That every fixture has a team in it that looks like they're going to need something out of the game to help them consolidate or push on away from a relegation zone or even stay in the playoffs. So, I think York have got Barnet a good time. Barnet are they going to be a wounded animal? How are they going to respond from what they experienced on Saturday? A freshened up side. De Havilland's back in. Kabamba's back in. Who knows? But as I say, Paul seems to be very optimistic that York might get something out of the game. Yeah,
you're confident tonight, Paul?
Yeah, so we are the only game, of course, National League TV. It's weird, isn't it? But just talking about that relegation zone, the problem I think we've got is, so all the other teams, especially after tonight, have just got a few games in hand. So it's always like a pack of wolves almost kind of waiting to pounce. And they're all full of new players that they've drafted in. Your Yeovils, your Scunthorpes, Gateshead to a degree. So it's really, really unknown. I think the big difference is that if we win tonight, Yeovil will suddenly have to win all 3 games, I think, to get past us. So tonight is a big difference in that respect. And that Barnet formation is about 5. I think there's 6 kind of regular defenders in the first 11. So that's a bit crazy defensive, but I think they have to do it. They've got the people like the captain Gorman and Cardew, just because they played Saturday and they played the game before, they're just thinking they have to rest them, I think. But it's a big game. I feel like if we win, we'll feel like we've gone into a safe position, and if we don't win, we're as much in the relegation zone as those teams in there who've got the games in hand.
Yeah, I do. I'm made aware that your owners are going to be there tonight. Going to be present there tonight. I just want to ask you, Paul. What's the mood around York City and the supporters at the moment with York fans and obviously Henderson, etc. There's been talks about protests tonight, etc. I know in the National League North there were a lot of protests, and then it seemed to go quiet, and then now it's coming back again. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So basically, I think the mood right now. So basically, we had a few days ago we had the news that the takeover had fallen through, and also that they're struggling. They struggled to pay players and staff last month, and it was a last-ditch effort. So the mood is basically a lot of uncertainty, a lot of general worry, and a lot of general. How have we gone from the sheer optimism of coming up, having ASCII, having new owner, and so much excitement, to just so much uncertainty, because we as fans don't know, are we going to get a new owner? Is anyone going to step in? Are we going to find, if we couldn't pay the players last month, are we going to be able to pay them this month? So there's a lot of uncertainty. There is a secondary mood here, which is great, and that's a mood of whatever's happening, let's get behind the guys as much as possible on the pitch tonight. And that resonated through all the fans, who were absolutely fantastic against Scunthorpe last week. So yeah, that's like the secondary mood, and that's fantastic. And they will tonight. They will really, really get behind them. That's fantastic. I'm heading off now.
Can I quickly just who would you predict to go down the bottom four from now?
I think I heard what's the prediction. I'm going to go for 3-2 York. I think there'll be goals for both sides. I think tends to be the way with Barnet, and I think that's the way it's going with us. So I'll go for 3-2. 3-2. And just I guess finally to say, love your videos, Luke. And if you want someone to buy you a pint on Monday, feel free to hunt us out, and we'll do just that.
Now, but I still don't think I can. But yeah, thank you for your offer. You might have to buy me a Diet Coke instead. Thanks for your time.
We'll do absolutely that. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Got a few people waiting now. Got two Gateshead fans that are going to come on very shortly. We're going to bring the Maidstone fan in first, because I know we were waiting prior to that. Firstly, obviously it was announced Maidstone have been relegated. Firstly, what's your opinions on this season as a whole? Do you think that from the start it's felt like you're going down because you haven't had a win since the 28th of November?
I'm not necessarily sure that's what we thought was going to happen at the start of the season. I think we had a very good season in the National South last year. It was way above our expectations. So this season we sort of expected maybe a season to consolidate ourselves. So perhaps around 15th to 18th. So just about stay up, but not feel like we're going to go down immediately. I guess it sort of went wrong. But in the summer we didn't really bring in enough players. Then obviously at the start of the season, we thought, it started off well. We won 3 of our first 6 games, and when we lost 4-1 to Gateshead in September, that's when it started to really go downhill. We sort of didn't really know what we were doing, and amongst that, we did have quite a few results where it could have gone our way, but didn't quite go our way. So, for instance, Chesterfield at home, we got back into it in the 88th minute. We lost in the 94th minute. We played Dorking away when we were winning 2-1, and we ended up losing 3-2. Like, we conceded 2 goals at a time. So that's sort of sucked a load of confidence out of our team. But since we lost to Dagenham over the Christmas and New Year, it's sort of been set in stone that we are just going to go down.
Is it a case of you've just not been good enough, or do you just think that because how I see it is when you got promoted, it was very National League South-y, where you needed to bring in a bit of quality that's proven at this level, and I don't think you did that enough. And even in the January transfer window, I don't think you brought enough quality in my opinion, to have any sort of fight this season. Of course, I think Regan Booty, I believe, has he gone to Oldham now as well, or he was rumoured to go there?
I think he's still with us, like right now, but I think he'll leave at the end of the season.
Yeah. But yeah, what are you a bit frustrated with that?
Yeah, I'm quite frustrated with it. I mean, considering the fact that our main summer signing, Sol Andrew Smith, he got injured before the start of the season. We thought he was going to come back in September, but sort of like a communication between the club and the fans, that sort of got pushed back. So at first, as I said, we thought it'd be September. Then it got pushed back to December. Then he didn't really end up coming back consistently until about around February. But in response to your question, yeah, we were sort of surprised at the lack of signings in the summer. There were quite a few players that when we were in the National League South, they weren't really playing much, but for some reason this season they sort of stepped in amongst all the injuries we've had. So Christy Patterson, he's left now, but he's played quite a lot of games this season. However, he didn't play much last season. The list goes on, really. I won't go into too much detail, but alongside that, I'd probably say it's the injuries as well. Like Juan Luque, probably our best player last season. He won National League South Player of the Season. Hasn't played all season because of an injury he got last season. Jerome Binnon-Williams did really well for us last season, but unfortunately missed quite a big chunk of the season. And I did mention Sol Andrew Smith, but yeah, we really need to bring in some more players in the summer. We didn't really do that. James Alabi seemed quite optimistic, but he's been quite quiet this season, bar a couple of goals. But yeah, we really need to bring in some more players.
Paul, you got any opinions on Maidstone this season?
No, I mean, I went to the away game. It was a really wet, cold Tuesday night, and we managed to get a last-minute goal to get a draw. But I felt that we were still the stronger side, and I think everything that's been said is true of what Maidstone are. They haven't improved on their National League South squad, and when you're they're not a small side, but when you're a side coming up into the National League against these established teams, you have to consolidate. You have to build those slow sort of foundations to be able to sort of stay in the league and progress, similar to like Wealdstone have, Maidenhead have, Woking have over the years. They've all got that little bit more every year, and Maidstone have left themselves too much to do. And you clearly, there was hope that they might get that American investor that might have been available this back end of this season, maybe going into next season. That doesn't seem to have happened. So now they're having to clear their decks, selling their best, their leading scorer recently in the transfer window, letting Luque go at the end of his contract. It's a real difficult. That's going to be a real difficult task for any team to try and sort of compete. And not only that, if you start going on a series of games that you're not winning, confidence is going to be going to be rock bottom. And no matter what team you put out, be it new loanees, be it youngsters, established players, if you can't buy a win, it just perpetuates and carries on. Similar to if you are winning games, like Wrexham, we know what they've got, but they find ways to win games. Maidstone seem to find ways to lose games, and it's just not a recipe for success when it comes to a really tough, challenging league like the National League is.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, and I think when we look at Maidstone now, and I'll just ask you this final question before we do let you go, as I do know we've got a few people waiting. We look at Maidstone now. It's confirmed that they're going to go down. It's probably been known for a long time now. I just want to ask you, do you think you can come back from this?
Yeah, I think it's possible. Obviously, George Olakobi, he's our new manager. He's got quite a lot of experience on contacts from all of his clubs, from the Premier League all the way down to National South. I think it might take some time. No, by the looks of it, he's going for quite a young team. So in January, he's brought in like Mamadou Job, he's quite a young player, Sam Bone, and they're players who've really seemed to sort of, shine for us recently. So I think it might take around 2 or 3 years, but if the fans can get behind the team, because for National South, we are quite a big club. Last season, we had attendance of 4,175, which is the record. So I think if things fall into place and hopefully we can put the past behind us, I think we can get back up.
Brilliant. Cheers for your time. We'll bring some of the Maidstone fans into the stream now. Over 50 of you watching. Great to see. Please remember to like and subscribe. We'll go into this format now and bring Mikey into the stream from the Heed Army podcast. Luke will bring you in a second. How are you doing? Sorry to keep you waiting there, but firstly, how are you doing?
I'm fine. It's Mickey, by the way.
Mickey,
not
right,
Mikey.
Yeah.
Well, we should both be singing the Wembley song, to be fair, Luke, shouldn't we?
Yeah, we'll have to put Queso on at the end of the podcast.
It's Tell Me More in the northeast, not Queso.
Have to make it different, don't you? No.
Yeah, I mean, we done it the opposite way to use by the sounds of it. You got the last minute equaliser, we conceded one.
Yeah. World reversed, didn't they, in that game? But yeah, did you think when that happened was 3-0 up? I remember looking and you were 2-0 up, and I said, why can't we just not be 2-0 up and just be coasting on our way to get to Wembley like you guys? Although you made it more difficult than you would have thought, or do you think it was just a case of a game of two halves and Barnet were just outstanding in that second half?
Barnet were outstanding second half. We were 3-1 up at half time and we were coasting. We were absolutely coasting. And we had a couple of chances and Laurie Walker saved it from extending the lead in the first half. And we had a couple of breakaways, but it was all Barnet second half. And I'm glad it went straight to penalties, because if it had went to extra time, that could have been the comeback of our comebacks.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. We got through. I mean, if you're a Barnet fan, you're absolutely pig sick. You've come from 3-0 down and you missed two.
Especially considering they only have to travel 10 minutes down the road compared to you have to travel a fair few hours.
Well, it's to get to Wembley. Believe me, we'll use boat, train, motorbike, you name it, we'll get there. So I'm looking forward to it. And I must admit, I'm pleased to see Mr. Franklin sitting there.
Yeah, Paul, what's your take then on it?
He was more ecstatic than I was.
Yeah, there's no love. There's no love lost between Wealdstone fans and Barnet fans. To see Barnet be 3-0 up, 3-0 down rather, it was quite pleasing. And listen, all joking aside, there's not a lot, as I say, not a lot of love lost. But you always think we'd only played Barnet the week before, and a few of their fans were crowing a little bit. So to see them sort of struggle in that first half, as was said, for them to come back to make it 3-0 in the 11th minute of injury time, all of a sudden I think, bloody hell, Barnet have done, as you say, the comeback of all comebacks. But looking at it from an outsider, irrespective of that Wealdstone Barnet sort of relationship, I don't know.
Oh. There we go. That's gone.
Barnet fans have cut him off.
Let's bring in a word, Gateshead fan, and let's have the positivity up. You all right, Luke? How are you doing?
Hello there, Ricky. Are you all right?
We can't hear a word you're saying. Oh, another one's gone. Another one bites the dust now. We'll take this opportunity then to have a look at the live chat. Kez here says hello. Please remember, if you want to get involved, you can get the StreamYard link and then tune in. We don't get who you support. We'll just talk a bit about the National League. Someone said, hello, come on, Wrexham for promotion. Keza says, Scunthorpe getting rid of staff and moving training grounds too. Andrew says, hi, Luke, Wrexham were outstanding against York. Big game Friday against Halifax. Notts County to come to the racecourse on Monday. Who your money on? Probably for that Halifax match, I'll probably have to say Halifax to support them. But no, I think there could be a bit of a shock there, maybe a bit of bias there. Ali, who's a Woking supporter, said, evening, biggest news this week, Bournemouth sacking off their caterers, court battle pending, rats in the thighs. Well, that's cheered me up. Also had Tom, sadly, Maidstone relegation this season was simple, inevitable, and this season and 2018, when Maidstone last went down, shows that Maidstone are not good enough for the fifth tier, just like Dover and Braintree. Someone said, and this is based off that back to the Halifax conversation that we had earlier. I know the Halifax fan behaviour was poor, but them limbs at the end were unreal. Yeah, they certainly were. They certainly were, and we have got that in, as I will say that. John, Chris is here. Sorry, Chris. John Wright's here. It's good to see you tonight, Luke. Wrexham FC 3-1 Halifax on Friday. Oh, come on. We've also had, hello, Luke. We'll watch your podcast with great interest when in League Two, Wrexham. You should get Paul in as a co-host, great commentator, and a third guest each week. Cheers for that. We've also had, I think Halifax need to rest players until Wembley, especially Friday now. We won't be doing that. And then we've had someone else come in, comfortable win for Chesterfield last Saturday. Do you think Chesterfield will get third as easier running than Woking? In my opinion, yeah, I think they will, to be honest. Although I do like that addition that Woking made with Lapata. And then someone said Wrexham won, Halifax won. Hello from the Heat. We've got another Gateshead fan that's in the chat.
That's my girlfriend. Very nice of her to join in.
Yeah, welcome. Is he well aware from your streams? Have you seen him in there before?
Sorry?
Is this guy? Have you seen him in your streams before? In your Heat Army?
That's my girlfriend, Trina.
Yeah, that's good.
So, yeah.
Brilliant.
So,
yeah,
to be
we're all
honest,
coming back now. It seems, but yeah, welcome to the stream. We've had a lot more that we'll save them until we've finished with the calls. We'll bring Luke and Paul back in. Paul, what happened there, mate? We've also had Luke in as well. Internet issues.
The whole thing just shut down. Literally everything. I apologise. It's because I was talking about Barnet. It overheated, I think. So,
must have been. Yeah.
So apologies all.
Yeah, just been.
You all right, Luke?
Yeah, Luke, you all right, pal?
Yeah, but I just accidentally kicked my my power bank on my computer.
Oh, it gets better and better.
Accidentally when I was just to come on.
What's your take on getting to Wembley then?
Honestly, it's probably one of the best games I've been to, other than the obviously Gateshead versus Hereford match. Obviously, that matches everything and all that. But honestly, it was just absolutely surreal. Literally, I felt everyone in that stadium was just like, all their emotions just came down on that one penalty. And then I literally cried. If you haven't seen on my Twitter, I literally like cried my heart. I just couldn't believe it, because during the penalty shootout, and obviously when Barnet scored, I was like, oh, we're gonna do something here. And obviously we're all relying on like Montgomery to save the penalties, and I thought, well, honestly, I think he's gonna save some here. And well, it turns out he did. He's definitely saved 2 penalties and all that. And it was just, the whole stadium after that was just rocking, and all the atmosphere like came onto the players, and the full-time scenes were just like, it was just unmatched. It just felt like the Gateshead versus Hereford game over and over again, but last season. It was just honestly, it was just, I just can't put it into words. I'm just speechless. Still thinking about it, I'm just completely speechless.
I must admit, I broke into tears when Barnet equalised. I thought we blew it big time.
Has anyone seen David's commentary on that from there? Because I watched the highlights and I could just hear him screaming. And I remember him saying, things like this never happened to Gateshead. It was quality, to be fair, the commentary. Anyone watching want to hear the highlights of that, I suggest going
it's
over
such a Gateshead thing to do, though. Just do it the hard way and all that. Just
never do it easy, Luke.
You're looking forward to Wembley then, lads. Yeah, what's your opinions on that?
What was that? Sorry.
What's your opinions on getting to? Are you looking forward to Wembley then?
I am, but we haven't beat you since 2000. I'm sick of the bloody side years.
I know. We'll be saying this every time. We'll be saying this in 20 odd years.
Well, no. I think by May the 21st, hopefully, we might have ended that hoodoo.
Yeah, be a place to do it.
It could be a draw again.
Penalties.
I kind of take penalties for three bloody rounds in a row. I'll have a heart attack when you two are young.
You kept on saying that, and during the podcast and all that, it was like a couple of days before, you were just like thinking, like Davy Steele was like going on about him, saying like, oh, he's gonna have a heart attack when he gets the penalties. And I think you actually did have a heart attack when it went to penalties, even more when Barnet scored.
I needed to stumble on my underpants afterwards.
Oh God!
But yeah, I bet the scenes were. I bet the scenes were quality. To be fair, at full time, it were great to see that you got to Wembley, and I think from Halifax perspective, probably more chance of us beating you than there was Barnet. Then again, you're the ones who did defeat them. Do you think? Just final question then before we do let you go. you think that relegation, you're fine now from that? You've got games in hand on sides below you. You're out of the relegation zone now.
Got 3 games in hand on some of the bottom teams.
Unbeaten in, was it 12 games? I think you're unbeaten in, 17 games you're unbeaten in based off league as well. Which is, very...
They've drawn a lot of games.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden we've hit form. I don't think Macaulay Langstaff's got anything to worry about. But Louis Story's got 3 goals in 2 games for a centre half that hadn't scored in 77. He's got 3 in 2. So, but no, to be honest, we seem to be hitting form. When it comes to the trophy, all the injuries we've had, and Luke will back us up here, we've had to bring players in the second half of the season. A lot of cup-tied players. So we had 6 missing from the team that beat Barnet. Now, them 6 have had a rest. They'll come into the Oval game tomorrow. We're starting to get a couple of players back. We've got Camille Conter back from international duty. Owen Bailey's back from injury. So hopefully by the time we get to the Wembley, we could have a couple of loanees back that started in the start of the season. Plus, likes of Kenton Richardson, Owen Bailey, all firing. We've had a few games under the belt. So hopefully the season we've got to make these games count. We need 7 points possibly from the next 3. And I think we'd be safe. But
I was just looking online and I worked it out on my little calculator, and I looked, and on Gateshead are projected to get 50 points, and that'll be 49.5, but obviously rounding that up, it's 50 points, and that's what's going to keep you up. In my opinion, maybe a few less than that, to be honest. Yeovil, you've got games in hand on them. If you beat them tomorrow, I'd go as far to say Gateshead are safe. Luke, would you agree with that?
Yeah, of course, but I think I can't speak. Still can't speak. Obviously, it's going to probably be a game that we're hoping to win. Everybody's obviously backing us and all that. Obviously, everyone wants to back us to win and all that. I back myself to win that game, and I'm definitely confident in all that, because obviously due to the playoff semi-final. But obviously, there's going to be some weeks where we sometimes might crash and all that. Obviously, we've got it was Yeovil, and then we've got Scunthorpe on Friday, and then we've got Altrincham on away, and then we've got Eastleigh on Wednesday, and then we've got I think another one. I think we've got Bromley on Saturday. So I think I think it's gonna be between the 2 games where we just finally start something. I don't feel confident between this form.
Yeah. Just ask you. Okay, fine. Just then, I'll just both ask you before we do let you go. What's your prediction tomorrow night?
Watching Gateshead, I'd like to think it'd be 2-0, but it'll probably be something like 2-1, where they score in the last 10 minutes and we'll be hanging on.
Yeah.
And Luke will back us up.
It's always the hard way.
Haven't had it easy
honestly, I'll say this now. I'm gonna go for a 3-1 to Gateshead. I think we can do it, considering where Yeovil are travelling up on a Tuesday night and all that, and they don't really have proper. I think they have limited players. I think Fisher went off and all that with a massive injury, a really bad injury against Southend, which suspended the game after a couple of minutes. I think their other lone player, Freckleton's been sent off as well from that game, so he's suspended and all that. So I think we've got a chance here, but we just have to see how it goes, really.
Cheers, Luke. Cheers, Mickey, for your time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Cheers. Right, we'll get on to looking at the fixtures that obviously happened on Saturday. Please keep your comments coming in the live chat. We'll just get into these now. Of course, just another thing that I think we need to just slightly discuss a little bit. I just want to ask you, Ross McNeely obviously was sacked by Aldershot. He's gone back to his original role of being an academy manager. there. I'm just going to quickly turn my light on. But Paul, what's your opinions on that?
Well, obviously, when he came in and replaced Mark Molesey, they weren't in a good place, were they? They were really struggling, and he seemed to sort of stop the halt, really. And they're a very young side, aren't they? And he clearly knows the club, and he knows some of the squad and everything else. And I think they were boosted by the fact that they were able to bring some players in. It clearly sort of started to drop, and they're one of the teams that have sort of slowly dropped back into that mix of relegation without anyone really talking about them. Losing Ini Effiong was a massive blow for them. He's top scorer. Anyone in that league, it doesn't matter what size of the club it is, needs a goal scorer. Gateshead lost Langstaff last year. Wealdstone lost Reece Brown. Those sorts of examples. And to go and lose Ini Effiong at that critical stage of the season, they obviously felt that they could still carry on and do as well without him some way or another. But it quite clearly hasn't happened. And, has he been, it appears that he's been removed from that job to go back to his youth team job. There may be an element where he's probably approached the club and said, I'm not sure I want to do this or can do this a longer term. And, for your benefit, go and find someone else who's got a little bit more experience at that first team level. He's very untried and untested. Not many people had heard of him. He's very young, so fair play to him. I mean, he stepped up and he's done a fair job. Probably not a great job if you're an Aldershot fan, because they're still in that relegation mix. But he's steadied the ship and he's kept them in the league so far. And at a time where when Mark Molesey went, they looked like they were sort of going to be sort of going down without too much of a fight.
Yeah. Well, he's been in charge for 17 matches, 4 wins in those, and 22 points. 17 matches, and I don't think it was horrendous from Aldershot. I don't think he's improved it. I don't think he's weakened it. That's how I see it. But I don't think many managers could. Honestly, I think you could get Neil Warnock and he'd do no better with the side that you've got. You can only do so much with the players that you've already got. He's lost in Effiong, which is no fault of his own, which I don't believe, which is your top goal scorer, your main source of goals you've lost. And, they're just above that relegation zone. They've never really dropped into it. Of course, I look at them now and I think they could drop into it, and maybe that's why they've gone for a change. But honestly, this new appointment's crucial in my opinion. If this new manager doesn't work, the Kings Lynn manager that they've brought in, if this doesn't go to plan, because there's a lot of Aldershot fans that are a bit unhappy about losing Ross McNeely. I think it's a bit of torn between the fan base, between their opinions on him departing back to the youth team. If this doesn't go well, they could fall into that relegation zone, because we look at them at the moment. There's Maidstone, they're down, it's been official. Torquay, Scunthorpe, maybe one of those. Maybe Torquay, you'd have a bit, may say they could survive. And then you've got Yeovil, and I think it's probably between, in my opinion, there's Yeovil, there's York, there's Aldershot, and there's another team that's just gone, and Gateshead. I think they're the 4 teams. I think Halifax and Dorking will be safe now, in my opinion. Just going back to the original question on Ross McNeely. I think it's going to depend on how this works. At first, I was a bit shocked, but now looking at it, I'm a bit. I think it'd be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, what do you think, Paul, on this new appointment?
Getting someone like Tommy Widrington in from the outside seems like a good idea for a longer term view. Clearly, he got Kings Lynn into a position in the National League South to be looking for promotion back to the National League. Yeah. He knows what it takes to sort of come out, to drop out of the National or try and stay in National League. He couldn't quite do it with Kings Lynn last year. And I think a lot of that was based around him just not having the right players. I don't know whether he had the right investment, the right recruitment throughout the season. A little bit like Maidstone found, where if you don't improve in certain areas or on certain numbers, you're always going to struggle. And Kings Lynn did that last year, and they went down with a bit of a fight, but they went down fairly easily. I can only see them getting him in on the basis that they may think, shit, we're going to get relegated, We need a manager in National League South experience to get us promoted, which is clearly he's done with Kings Lynn. He's got him in the right position because he can't go in and affect the squad. There's no transfer window. The only thing he can go and do is try and sign free agents. How many free agents, like Yeovil have noticed, how many free agents are you going to get that are up and running and ready to go and to get into a relegation battle with 5 or 6 matches left? Yeovil have tried that model and it's not worked. You know, they've got 6 or 7 players in that squad who aren't fit physically at this time to go and play National League football at the sharp end of it, where points are desperate every week. So Williamson's got to go with what he's got. And I can't see how, yes, a different voice in there, but it's only been 17 games. A different voice there may help. It may get that new manager bounce. But I can only see this as a longer term view of getting an established manager in if they were to get relegated. Obviously, if they don't, that's a bonus. And he's got a whole pre-season, a whole summer of recruitment to go and get players that he thinks, because Aldershot are better equipped than, say, Kings Lynn would have been to stay in this league next season, as he experienced with Kings Lynn last year. But it's just, you know, personally, he played in Southampton. He might come from Hampshire. He lives in that way. So for him, you know, it's a great appointment for his probably his personal life and his work-life balance. I don't know what they promised him. Who knows? But it just seems a bit of an odd one to leave a club that are looking to get promoted to the National League to a club that could get demoted from the National League. And he's going to end up going one way, potentially one team, and his other team is going to go above them.
I think the way that he left as well was quite interesting.
Yeah,
I think
terrible.
On the up, and then for him just to leave like that with short notice as well. And we've got our own group chat, and we were all thinking, oh, is he going to go to Rochdale? And we were just saying even that's a silly move because, you know, they could be in the same division next year. This is certainly, and I don't know the ins and outs, but this, in my opinion, is certainly silly. You're going into a toxic atmosphere, which it is at Aldershot at the moment. You know, you look at the current position, you look at the ownership, and having a few arguments about that towards the owner too there. And you're going to that club, there's a chance that they could go down. I do want to look at the whole relegation battle as a whole. You know, first leg Maidstone, we know they're down. We don't need to talk too much more about them now. I think it was sad to see the way they went out as well, losing 4-0. I think just sums up their whole season. Scunthorpe, I honestly think are down. When I was weighing it up, I did some of my own little stats here, and you on projection, you need to have 50 points to survive. That's projected. Gateshead, that's what Gateshead are projected to get is 50 points. So Scunthorpe won 34. They've got 5 games remaining. They technically can't actually survive if they win all their games. If Gateshead carry on going on the form and get the points they're projected to do. So I'd probably say they're down. Then again, if you look at Scunthorpe, I think it's a case of they have to win every single game now, especially considering who those games are. I think they've got Dorking, they've got Southend, they've got Gateshead to play, I think. Gateshead away they've got, and there's someone else in there, Aldershot, I think it's Aldershot away as well. They're the 5 games. Now, the only game there that I think's a really tough game would be the Southend game. But then again, that's at home. I think being at home when you need to win, you could get that. But even if they won every single game, they'd get 49 points. Gateshead are going strong. They, in my opinion, will survive. I think they're good enough to prove over the last few games. Aldershot, maybe, but I think they might have just enough to survive. Do you think Scunthorpe survive you after that defeat to Torquay? Because I remember saying before that game, whoever loses this is going to go down. And now I think it's going to be Torquay, but obviously Scunthorpe have been defeated. Do you think now there's no chance Scunthorpe can survive? No.
I mean, they appointed their new manager probably a month too late. We've always sort of said that. They had to go on some sort of run. They haven't. You know, they haven't really improved, even though they've sort of brought in a whole new team. I mean, that was a damaging loss on Saturday, wasn't it, against the Torquay side that are really struggling themselves. So I don't think they'll survive, and I don't think they think they will survive. You know, it's been disclosed today that they've disbanded their academy and they're moving, it's 70 miles away to a new training base to save money. And you look at what their new owner has said, that they're spending £40,000 a week on wages. and they're second.
They're moving, aren't they? They're getting rid of
Yeah,
the they're moving the training.
They're having to move the training ground, save money, get rid of their academy. It's £40,000 a week potentially, if you believe the figures that the owner. And why would he lie? To be marooned second from bottom, and like you said, they've got to win 5 games. I mean, I don't know what they've won all season. I can't quite see that. They've won 5 games all season, and you expect them to win the next 5 in a row.
Yeah,
They're done. They're done. Like I said just before, that is a massive game tomorrow night. Gateshead Yeovil is a massive game, because if Gateshead win, you can see those 4 being cut adrift slightly. Yes, Gateshead have games in hand, so I think they're going to be okay. They're buoyed by their win on Saturday. They're at home tomorrow night against a really wounded animal in Yeovil, who are struggling for numbers and fitness and quality. I can see that bottom 4, if Gateshead win tomorrow night, be the 4 that go down.
I'd probably agree with you on that. I'll just say, I think who do you think's still involved in this relegation battle? Because we need to talk a bit about Dorking. We probably won't bother with going through every single game.
No, I don't.
About each club. We can just go on each club and just see.
Yeah.
Talk about them. We'll look at the top 7 in a little while. But just Dorking. In my opinion, Dorking upwards. I think Dorking, Halifax, Oldham. A couple of weeks ago, you could say they could fall into it. They're all safe, in my opinion.
Yeah.
York, they get a result tonight, I think we'll be safe. And then I think it's Aldershot, Gateshead, and the bottom 4.
Yeah.
Where do you think the safety point is at the moment? Because I think if Halifax win either on Friday, which is unlikely, it's a free hit in my opinion, or if we win at York, we're safe. Dorking, they need another win and they're fine. Do you think how far would you go down to say that we could still go down this season?
I think that is it's a massive. That's a massive game tomorrow night, that Yeovil Gateshead game. Because if Yeovil win, all of a sudden they're plus 40. They're in the 40-point bracket, and they've kept Gateshead close to them. Yes, Gateshead have 2 games in hand over them, and which one would you prefer? Points on the board or games in hand? At this stage of the season, I wouldn't want games in hand, because they come in Saturday, Tuesday. So I think the pitch will be clearer after tomorrow night. That's not me trying to sort of say, I don't know. Yes, Aldershot could easily be sucked into it. York, again, tonight's result could be sucked in. But I genuinely do think that bottom 4 are going to be going, especially if Gateshead win tomorrow night, because that's a big advantage going into the last few games of the season. Dorking, I'm pretty confident they've hit a run of form at the right time. Yeah. Mark White has managed to get his right mix of squad and players. He's gone out and recruited from the Football League, a couple of Crawley lads who fell out of favour with the new management. Aaron Kuehl's just sort of got back on the bench, coming in from Slough, who's a really quality midfield player. They've hit form at the right time. Whereas Yeovil haven't. Yeovil consolidate. Mark Cooper got them, stopped them letting goals in, gained a huge amount of draws, couldn't convert them to wins. Now they can't convert the losses to draws, and that's really what's killing them.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that when you say that. You look at the amount of draws that you've had. What surprises me is they had the takeover in the ownership, and they had that win. I can't remember who it was against. It was at home now, and ever since they haven't really built on it. They got a point against Chesterfield away, which were very good, but apart from that, they haven't built on it. Halifax away. When they came to Halifax, they were awful. Neither side deserved to win. We were poor as well. And I actually said they're the worst side that I've seen all season. I haven't seen Maidstone at the Shea yet, but I'd probably say based off performances, they're the worst side that I've seen at the Shea all season. And I've seen the likes of Torquay, seen Scunthorpe, of course, they did beat us, but I've seen some really poor sides this season at our place. Aldershot were also quite poor as well against us. So honestly, I can't see Yeovil surviving now. I think Gateshead have proven that another side, I think, are in decent form, got those games in hand, which of course you could say want points on the board, but they're thriving off that and knowing that they've got games in hand. The only thing I will say is the likes of Gateshead, they're playing a lot of sides that are around them. So of course, if Gateshead lose those games to sides that are around them, which you wouldn't expect, then they could be in a little bit of bother, in my opinion. But no, I think Gateshead will be fine. Yeovil have got a really tough end to the season with some of the games as well. They've still got to go to, I believe, Wrexham away. They've still got to play. Now they've played Chesterfield. Now they've still got to play a lot of sides in the top 7 as well. I know for a fact when I was checking some of their fixtures coming up. So yeah, I think those bottom 4, especially after tomorrow night, could be decided. You know, Dorking, you just briefly talked a bit about them. They have been so inconsistent all season. They're now finding that bit of consistency, which is going to keep them in this league. So, like you mentioned, they hit form at the right time. Let us know in the chat who you think is going to go down this season. We'll have a quick look now. We've had a few people that were coming in. Someone said, we still have to place Yeovil and Scunthorpe away this season, so people around the bottom, I won't be too comfortable as we love giving away 3 points now. You'll be fine. The Heed Army podcast is in saying, hello, lads. Mickey looking good, son. Well done to Halifax on making the final. Yeah, well done to yourselves too. Someone said, looked like Fisher had a compound fracture to me, terrible injury. And if he'd been on the proposed new contract, it could have ended his career. Hopefully we'll see him again this calendar year. Yeah, that wasn't very good at all. I know they were talking a bit about that on that group chat as well. We wish him a speedy recovery as well and hope that he's okay. Mickey's in the chat. He said, Stingem, if we can add some of the loan players we have, like Pye and Whelan on a permanent deal, we might finish higher. We need a bit more experience for what is a young squad. We've also had arguably Wrexham best performance against Oldham. It could have been 10, taking nearly 5,000 fans to the share and should have too much for you, Luke. Not necessarily a title decider. Now, we're not going to talk about any of Friday's fixtures because we'll be back at this again later on in the week too. We've said someone's put, hi Luke is a Dorking fan. Hi Luke, have you been Dagenham away before? Yes, I have, and it was a brilliant game. We won 3-1 there last season. I have been to Dagenham. Yeah, it's a good away day. Hayden's in the chat. Let us know you support. Said hello, mate. Welcome to the live stream. Aldershot looking dodgy. He's then gone to say. Luke, do you agree the Dagenham home end is quieter than the Etihad? I can't comment on that because there may be a few Dagenham fans watching. And then we've had, if York win tonight, they I think they're safe. Yeah, would you agree with that, Paul?
Yeah, I think they are.
We'll move on to the top 7 then now. We'll have a look at this. We kind of look at a few of the games, but honestly, I don't think it's really needed. Barnet, of course, playing. Bromley had a good win, on Saturday. They beat Solihull Moors at their place 4-0. They could be a side that I think could come back into the top 7. Honestly, I think Southend I think they've blown it now. I think they're out of that race. 8 points with 6 games remaining. You're probably going to have to win them all if you're wanting to get into the playoffs from this point now. What's your opinion on this playoff race at the moment? Who would you say it's between them? Honestly, Paul, now I think Wealdstone are eliminated from that.
Yeah.
Race.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it now, apart from Notts who have played 41, everyone's played 40 if with Barnet playing tonight. So, that top 10 or even down to the 13, but that top 8, 9, 10, they've got no games in hand to sort of rely on to pull the gap closer. At the moment, I think you're right. Wealdstone and Southend being sort of 6 points behind. 8 points behind. That's too much to make up in 5 games. But Bromley have managed to sort of keep on the tails of Eastleigh in 7th and are only 3 points behind. So you can see maybe Bromley, Eastleigh and possibly Boreham Wood swap in. But apart from that, I think Chesterfield and Barnet are safe in there. It just depends where they might finish in that top 7. The interesting one really is the 1 and 2, Wrexham and Notts, whether they win the league or end up second, and whether Woking and Chesterfield swap places and take that second semi-final space.
Yeah, in my opinion, and I've mentioned that it's definitely the top 8 now. It's funny how it's just changed, though. It's been so fierce, and it still is over the relegation battle. The table's starting to come into place, I think, now where everyone's going to be finishing. I think everyone knows whereabouts they're going to be. There's, I think, 5 or 6 teams in that relegation battle, 8 teams in this playoff race. I think it's between Bromley, Eastleigh, Bournemouth could fall out, but I think they've proven, in my opinion, from what I've seen, that they're good enough to get into the playoffs this season. Barnet, I think they'll be fine. I think they need to keep it up though and get a bit more momentum. Because this is something that you need to think about now as well. Is each side's got about 5 or 6 games remaining in these playoffs. Even if you're, let's say, at Barnet, where you know realistically you should make it into the playoffs, you don't want to be taking your foot off the ball at this point, because you've got to think about where you're going to finish in the playoffs and who you're going to play. You've also got to think about you want to be in form in the playoffs. We look at Halifax last season, and they had their worst spell of form in the season, but prior to the playoffs, we dropped points to Aldershot late on, which really was the turning point of the season when we hit a bit like a massive stumbling block. Then went to Stockport, lost there, and then we had Chesterfield at home, and everything was against us, and everything was for us, and we bottled it. And it was all because of that form. So if you're a Brownwood and a Barnet, you need to be in form for these playoffs, in my opinion. Would you agree with that? Do you think it's a case of you need to stay in form heading into the playoffs? Or do you think it's just about making sure that you're in the playoffs and it doesn't really matter too much?
No, I think it doesn't matter what league we talk about, whether you're talking about EFL 2-1 and Championship. When you look at playoffs, there's always generally a team that starts to push through and goes into the playoff picture with a bit of form. That's not really going to happen in the National League, like we said, with maybe only Bromley. But you look at Chesterfield, their run of form recently, they're the team that are in form, apart from the top two, because that's a different story. Chesterfield are the team that are now going to be are showing that form, whereas Barnet are the team that might sort of to falter a little bit. Borough would seem to be fairly consistent. Woking have wobbled a little bit. So I think it's massively important that you go into these games with a bit of form, because you might end up be playing away from home. Not everyone's going to get the home advantage. So they're going to want to try and finish second and third to get straight in the semi-finals. They're going to want to win their home tie to keep home advantage, etc. So I think you need to keep form. Players need to keep fit, stay away from injuries, have no suspensions, because at this time of the season, squads aren't massive in these leagues. So, you look at Barnet tonight, in fact, to change around and playing 6 defenders by the looks of it, because, their squad isn't huge. So, yes, form is important, because, winning becomes a habit as well as losing becomes a habit. And these teams need to keep winning, need to keep getting performances in, because it doesn't stop even in the playoffs. Yeah,
it certainly doesn't. I honestly, how I look at it, I think there's like 2 battles between each team. You've got Chesterfield, Woking, you've got Notts, Wrexham, down below you've got Gateshead, Yeovil. It's becoming quite interesting at this moment in time. We've talked about like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th even, and those sides that will probably miss out now. I think Solihull and Dagenham definitely there's no chance. I don't even know I would mention them, to be honest, because there is no chance of those. Before we do move on to this title race again, we'll talk a bit about this one. Woking v Chesterfield. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Woking were in the driving seat, and then they had that defeat to Chesterfield. And honestly, in my opinion, I thought, that's it. Chesterfield are going to overtake them. The squad depth, the quality difference on paper is going to take over in the last couple of games of the season. Be a similar situation to Halifax and Solihull this time last season when we were third. But then they go and bring in someone like Lapata. And we have briefly mentioned this before. But you bring in someone like him, who was at Southend, was a standout centre-half there. Shouldn't be playing in the National League, should be leagues above. Some say League One Championship standard. That just gives you a whole boost around the whole squad. Not just him, but the whole squad, the fan base. They're having sellout crowds now. I think against Dorking coming up, they've got a sellout there. Who do you think gets third then? Because Woking are a point above at the moment. Chesterfield have a game in hand. I'd still probably be favouring Chesterfield in my opinion. I think they've hit form, the best form they've had all season now. The additions that they've made, I think, overweigh the additions that Woking have made. So I'd be saying Chesterfield to come third still. Who would you be predicting to come third? I
think you're right. I'm just looking at the fixtures now, so apologies if I'm not looking at the camera. But yeah, it's they've both got a real mixture of teams that they've still got to play. I wouldn't suggest one's got any easier running than the others. I mean, Woking have got to play Dorking, who may well be safe by, feel they're safe by Saturday or by the weekend. Southend, probably nothing to play for. They've got Notts and Gateshead, who've got a lot to play for. Halifax and Solihull haven't. So, they've got a couple of tougher games in there. Whereas you look at Chesterfield and, they're the ones on the run of form. They've not lost in, 7 and 5 wins out of those. So, you look at their fixtures and York after tonight could be safe. Dagenham, nothing to play for. Eastleigh are probably consolidated could be a tougher fixture. Again, Torquay got lots to play for. Bromley, lots to play for. Maidstone are done. So they've both got a real mixture. I think it's just Chesterfield based on what they've managed to recruit in the last sort of few weeks, and that fact they've not lost in 7. They seem to really be hitting a bit of form.
Yeah, they really did. Against Halifax, after the first 20 minutes, they looked a really good side. That Armando Dobra, I thought he was a good player before that game. He came on in that game, and wow, I've not seen a player like that at this level, to be honest. That 30 minutes that he had when he got on the ball, he tore us apart. And there's other players like that. Obviously, you've got Dallas, McCallum, another player just to add. And the quality, Colclough, and the quality they had even before that. And I know you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, they don't necessarily have the best team on paper around the whole pitch, but they know how to play well as a team. And that's something that they've got now under Paul Cook. And they've made these additions, which makes them compete, honestly, in the playoffs. I'm backing Wrexham to win the league now. I think it's set, well, I won't say set in stone, but I think they're in the driving seat. I think Wrexham do have a few banana skins, starting with Friday, which we'll talk about on Thursday's show. But I think whoever does finish second, if that is Wrexham somehow, I don't think they're going to get promoted. And it's not just that because you've got the thought of we ain't got promoted, we should have won the title, put all our eggs into getting in, winning this title, and we haven't. Chesterfield, I think now with the squad they've got, can compete with these two sides. They just haven't done it throughout the season, but now with the additions that they've got, Dallas, I get those two mixed up. Dallas, McCallum, Colclough, these additions that they've had, in my opinion, are good enough to compete with this Notts side, are good enough to compete with this Wrexham side. Some may disagree with that, but in the playoffs, one game, honestly, they'd be my side to win the playoffs because they know that's what they know is the playoffs for them this season. Would you say that, or would you disagree with the fact that they couldn't agree? They couldn't compete?
I think you're right. I genuinely I saw them down at the Vale a few weeks ago. They beat Wealdstone 4-0. Wealdstone gave them a little bit of help with some of the mistakes they made. But listen, Chesterfield were by far one of the best teams that I've seen play in the National League this season. At the time that I saw them play, they had so much choice. What's the lad that's just got the older chap's just gone out on loan from Chesterfield? Yeah, the centre forwards. He wasn't even on the bench.
Oh, I mean Danny Rowe. No,
Danny Rowe. He wasn't. He was stood in front of the commentary box. He wasn't even on the bench. You look at the depth that they had. Raheem Shackelford wasn't in the starting 11, and he was 2 weeks before when we played him up at their place. So he's got a real good squad. He's not just got a good 11, and that's what Notts have got, and that's what Wrexham have got. Clearly, they have the resources, but Chesterfield stuck with, and I said this before, they stuck with Paul Cook. They could have easily got rid of him. The fans didn't seem to be particularly happy. Some of them turned around and said our performances aren't producing the results that we deserve. I didn't really believe them in that. I said you can't go so many games and not win and think but clearly their performances probably were better than the results because now they're getting the results and they're really strong through every department. As you said, Dallas and not Mandeville, Colclough and McCullum up top. Bringing back Lawrence Maguire alongside Grimes at the back with Ashley Palmer, really experienced National League. I was watching them at the Vale. They were high-fiving each other when they were stopping the ball going in the goal as defenders because that's what they want to do. I think they've really got their tails up. And thinking longer term, if we lose Wrexham and Notts out of the league and Chesterfield aren't successful, they've got to be one of the favourites to sort of get promoted next season with that squad, and they'll build on it in the summer.
the only thing I would say, I think your Oldhams will be strong. I think even your Wokings with the result. I know Lapata probably will leave at the end of the season. I still don't know if he's on loan, or if it's a short-term contract or what there, but I think they've got a lot of money behind them. They'll be stronger next season. There'll be a lot of sides that will also come back up with them as well, I think, and strengthen themselves. But if they don't get promoted, I think they will be strong. Someone said, Mickey came and said, I can't see past Notts v Chesterfield in the playoff final. Yeah, that could be, I think, the obvious one, but I think a lot of people would agree with you. He's also said Chesterfield were excellent at Gates, are definitely the best side I saw at the stadium. Someone said, just jumped on, but I'll start from the beginning. Been looking forward to this all week. Oh, cheers, David. The only thing is, I believe you are a Wrexham fan. Well, you're not a fan, you either of the two. But we won't be talking about any of those games tonight. It's all on Thursday's show. We've also had he's had a medical issue for the last 18 months and 2 years, had an operation in the summer. And then we've also had a new person who's in the stream tonight. Wait, did he just say Chesterfield have a better squad than Chester? Did I? I don't know. It's probably time to close off the stream if I did say something like that. And then Mr. Luke said Woking and Wrexham were up there. We'll just briefly have a look at the title race. Nothing's really changed since we last spoke, although Wrexham have hit 100 points, have hit 3 digits now. I would predict Notts County to follow them on Friday if I do believe that they are playing. Any thoughts on this that's really changed? Nothing really too much to talk about, is there?
No, not really. Look, it's Notts have got Wealdstone on Friday. As much as I would like to think Wealdstone will win, I can't see it happening. They'll give them a good game, but Notts have got away. I know it's going to be previewed, but playing someone like Wealdstone is a great warm-up to try and maybe get 3 points at home before the blockbuster match on the Monday. It's Wrexham's to lose. It's plain and simple as that. It's Wrexham's to lose. I can't see them losing it from this point. I think even if Notts beat them on Monday, I think Wrexham have just got a bit too much in the bank to not win the league from now. They've got 6 games to go. They've been relentless all season. Notts have been probably the best football team that I've seen, and many would agree. But Wrexham know how to win games, and they will not let this slip in the next 6.
I don't want to talk too much about it, but I really am buzzing for Friday now. With it being a big crowd, I honestly do feel that could be a banana. And I know a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's only because you're a Halifax fan," but we've proven at home this season when we play against the better teams, we play better. Now that we're more settled, won a massive boost. Millie Alley in his post-match interview after that match, actually, I know Sam Johnson was saying, obviously we've got Wrexham to come up. We'll give that our best shot and hope we'll get something against them. And Millie Alley went, we will. And the confidence in that is why I think it feels like there's a proper connection that we've been missing all season between the fans, the players. There's a big boost. I think ticket sales from the Halifax end have probably gone up even more after Friday's result. I'm really looking forward to it. And I think that could be a potential banana skin. And I think it'd make it more interesting for the neutral if we somehow got something against them for them to then play Wrexham v Notts County instead of them just winning and still having that 6-point gap. That more or less closes off the stream, though. I do thank everyone that has also tuned in tonight. Cheers to everyone that's joined the phone in as well. Of course, it's our first time ever doing anything like that. We do apologise if we didn't give you enough time. I don't know what anyone's thoughts were on that. Please leave some feedback on that, and if it's good and people enjoyed it, we'll do it again very, very soon. But Paul, thank you for coming on this evening once again.
No problem, Luke. Nice to speak to you, and I'm glad you're still buzzing from Saturday.
Yeah, I still am buzzing. I'm going to be watching that video of when we scored over and over again. I know Mr. Luke said to me last night, how many times have you watched that now? I said by the morning I would have watched it 100 times. I'm now on the road to get to 200, probably something like that. The amount of times that I've watched that goal, it won't be stopping all week. But yeah, thank you to everyone that's tuned in tonight. Large numbers once again. It's great to see. We're consistently getting over 50 people just throughout the streams now that are watching. One of our live streams the other week for a normal live stream that's obviously on doing preview shows got over 1,000 views, which is also great to see. And of course, we've reached 1,000 subscribers. We've nearly reached 1,100 too, so it's really good to see the rise in, obviously, attendances in the streams and also people that are coming across our podcast too. And we're hoping that this can carry on again next season as well, once it's finished. But a lot of content coming up too. That's enough of me waffling now. I'm going to lose my breath in a second. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.